We are creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective. Moments in time captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
Success is the ability to be yourself, 100% exercise your God-given free will. You live your life free. No intervention from social media, supreme, whatever. You live your life believing in whatever you want, fully living your life in your God-given free will and influencing others because of that. Example, musically, John Coltrane played his God-given free will musically, explored what to him felt like he should explore. And in return, people appreciated that. And he influenced others, started a movement, all sorts of movement. That is an example of musical success. And complete success is that idea of being able to completely be yourself.
Today on the Working Artist Project, we have the one and only Godwin Louis. Godwin is a saxophone player. He's an amazing human being, and he's also the CEO and co-founder of Experience IAT. You can check out Experience IAT at experienceIAT.org. The link is definitely in the bio. So Godwin and I talked about mastery. We talked about his time growing up in Connecticut, his time growing up in Haiti, his life story. We got into a lot of different topics, and actually the voice you heard before mine was his talking about success. So based on that alone, I know you guys know that you're going to enjoy this show. So sit back, relax, and take a listen. What I want to do is start with your past, man. Like, just give us tell my audience who Godwin Louis is.
Right. Yeah, cool, man. So my name, I guess by birth, that's what I was told, is Godwin Louis, Louis. I don't actually have a middle name. It's funny, all my siblings do, except for me. I don't know what happened. It must have been like, life in the Bronx in the 80s. Right. So I was born in Harlem Hospital in 1985. It's a special year.
Oh, yeah.
I think you were born in 85 too, right?
Yes, indeed. So
special year, man. Special year. So, I guess my parents at the time were living in the Bronx, actually. Off the 2 train, I think around the Bronx Zoo somewhere. And if I remember the story correctly, I think my mother, during labor, was on the 2 train. Wow. And then, because if you think about it, Harlem Hospital is off of the 2 train.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So I think she just got off and went there. Got off in Harlem and, went to the hospital. So I was born in Harlem Hospital. And I would say a couple of years later, we actually moved to Connecticut. It'd be 1989 or so, 88. Mm-hmm. When I was 3 or 4, we moved to Stamford, Connecticut. So again, I was born, to Haitian parents. My mother's from Haiti and my father is also from Haiti. Soon after, my parents also have a church in Haiti, a school. My father is a pastor.
Okay.
So they have a church, a school. They have a running, I think a nursing facility that one of my aunts is helping out with. She's a nurse. And in the past, we've had orphanage. We have a food program. And the school is from pre-K to finish. In Haiti, they have 13 grades. So I think there's 12. And the last grade is called philosophy.
Oh, wow.
They call it philo. Yeah, I know it's deep. It's pretty much like, first or second year of college year,
Okay.
So essentially, when you finish high school and country places like Haiti and a lot of other places like that, you essentially have a bachelor's degree because the last test is called a bachelor's test in French, baccalauréat,
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of times when we measure education when it comes to other countries, we usually say, oh, they only have a high school education. But it's like, man, first of all, they went to a lot more grades than us, and it's a lot more extensive. You see what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
So, when you finish high school in a place like Haiti and a couple of other countries like that, it's literally essentially having a bachelor degree because it's like the information that they've attained over, the course of that time, is, as equivalent to, a bachelor's degree here. But anyway, yes, so we're in Connecticut now. We moved to Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut. And then I think around 1994 or so, my father kind of decided for us to move to Haiti, man. So I lived in Haiti for 2 years.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
I think 2.5 years. So I came back. We left in 94. So then I came back. When I came back from Haiti, the story behind that is I had to come back, my sister and I. And so the last two, it's 5 of us. The last two of them were born in Haiti, the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 3, we were born in the States.
Right.
And so the U.S. government, I think, sent a letter or a call to my parents saying these kids are American. Why are they doing this long in Haiti? What's going on? If they don't come back to the States ASAP, we're going to send for them and put them in foster care. You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah, bro. So my grandmother, who was living in Bridgeport, Connecticut at the time, said, send him to me, he can, go to school there and all that stuff. And so that's essentially when my schooling started, man. So I think I was in the 8th grade. Moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and with my grandmother, and I started the 8th grade. So prior to that, I was homeschooled for the most part. I remember in the 3rd grade in Stamford, I went to school for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a special program, and then after that, we moved to Haiti. So that's why I say my schooling really started in the 8th grade, in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm a teenager. If you know anything about Bridgeport, it's the inner city in Connecticut. What some people call the hood. Because people think of Connecticut being nice, but you'll hear about, if you look into Bridgeport, it's real. There's Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury. I think one of your recent interviewers is from Waterbury, Jonathan Michel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of that same inner city vibe, But I think Bridgeport a little more because of its proximity to New York.
Right.
So you have a lot of people that tired of housing and building. You move to, Bridgeport. So my grandmother was living in Bridgeport. And I remember the first day of school, man, it was culture shock for me. It's I'm going to school. I'm a teenager. And, the things that comes with being a teenager. You know what I mean? The peer pressure, everybody smoking.
Right.
I think that's why I never personally smoked because I was past that age of peer pressure because I didn't grow up in that systematic, American education way, which is complete. You do your homework. You're going to pass to the next grade. Doesn't matter if you don't remember what the capital of your home state is. You did your homework. That's it. On to the second grade. You see what I mean?
Right.
So past that kind of, those kind of things. So I remember the first day, I'm walking back home with a little crew of kids and they're like, hey man, you should smoke. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm cool. It's not, you shouldn't smoke either. And they're like, yo, who's this kid? Like, yo, this kid is weird. Who do you know what I mean? And this kid was like the popular kid. So I didn't understand that dynamic. Like, there's a popular kid. He leads the pack, you know, cause like, you know, we had people following us. And he's like, yeah, so, you sure you don't want to? This kid is weird, you know? So I was like past the bullying. Maybe it was that, but I didn't see it. You see what I mean?
Right.
So that was a blessing. So, but before that, actually, man, funny story about the saxophone. Since I'm sure you'd like to know about that. I actually learned the saxophone when I moved to Haiti. I picked it up in Haiti in 94. That was one of the presents for being there. Because when we moved to Haiti, man, I was depressed for the first 3 months. You know, I missed the U.S. I'm like, man, all of a sudden I'm in this place. There's no electricity. You know, there's like no running water, and all these people are coming. You know, it's visibly poor, you know?
Right.
And my father said, you know what? Since you always wanted to play the saxophone, here's a saxophone. And on October 10th, 1994, man, my dad said, here. And prior to that, I was playing the piano because I come from like, you know, like church, you know, a Christian, heavy Christian background.
Right.
And a pastor's kid, a PK, you know, so we learn music at the age of 5. So at the age of 5, I learned piano. And I always wanted to, since my older brother, I'm the second oldest, since he was already like, you know, really good. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to always play another instrument so we can play duet together. And I remember watching Barney. I loved the saxophone, man. I thought I would like grab a hanger and shape it into like a saxophone to play. You know what I mean?
Right.
And finally, my dad said, "You know what? Let's get this kid a sax to keep him occupied." You know, and that's really where it began, man, in Haiti. So I started playing in the church. You know, right away, I started playing like, you know, I would hear like the second line of Haiti, that kind of culture. It's like playing with those guys. I already knew how to read, so I would play in like the local brass band. So when I moved to Connecticut and in the 8th grade, I didn't join band right away. You know, I needed a saxophone. And truthfully, I don't think it's ever been the reason why I joined band. My uncle was against it. I have an uncle that's a guitarist. His name is Robert St. Fleur. He's the one that introduced me to jazz, specifically to Charlie Parker, right when I moved to Connecticut, you know? Like, so at 13, he said, man, you know, you have an incredible ear and you can, you know, read music and you can kind of improvise off of the blues, but here's Charlie Parker. You know, check this dude out. So when I moved to Bridgeport, my uncle said, well, I don't want you to join the band because they're kids. You're like, you know, the stuff you playing and your experience is a little, you know, beyond what they're doing. But however, since you need a saxophone, I hear, you know, you get a free musical instrument, at least in Bridgeport. At the time, you get, you know, a free saxophone.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I joined the band, you know?
Okay.
And I remember, like, my teacher at the time, Joseph DeGroat is his name. You know, I went, and I think he kind of realized, okay, this kid can kind of play a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think it was, like, the end of the year, too. So then I graduated the 8th grade, you know, high school. Went to high school, also in Bridgeport. Basic High School. I think by then I was really into Charlie Parker. I was attending a church at the time, and it was through one of my mentors by the name of Dr. Dwight Berry. He's a pastor in Florida now, in the Fort Lauderdale area. Actually, I think it's Fort Myers now. He introduced me to another pastor who just passed away actually earlier this year. That, you know, I did a nice little post homage to him because he's sort of responsible for a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, he took myself and another friend that I had in Bridgeport, Jose Ramirez and Nate Perez, and, you know, they kind of like bought me my first professional saxophone and paid for me to take private lesson.
Wow.
Right. So that was like great. Yeah. So that helped us a lot And I think it was through private lessons, that I met this guy that changed my life, man. His name is Herb Wilson.
Okay.
He's like a psychologist in Connecticut. That's his day job. But he's like, an A class, super, tenor saxophonist.
Wow.
And his whole thing was like the history. Like, he was sort of like a father figure. The other part is when I came back, my sister and I, when we came back, to live, when we moved to Connecticut, my father stayed down there in Haiti. My parents stayed in Haiti, I think, until like 2003. Almost 10 years.
Wow.
So between that time, the time I came back in 2003, I actually never went back to Haiti. Actually, I went back to Haiti, believe it or not, when I was in the monk, bro.
Wow.
Since the 90s.
Really?
So that's why, so we'll get into that later. So it's like a crazy story. Because, when I came back, I was disconnected, with Haiti. I was Godwin Louis.
Oh, no.
The Louis thing started in New Orleans, man. That was like when I went to grad school, when I went, to the monk. That's when, I became Louis because I was home in Atlanta for the summer. I went to the bank with my mother. And the lady said, my mother's name is Lucy. She said, Lucy Lewis. And she was like, no, it's not Louis. It's Louis. It's Louis. Lucy Louis. And I was like, you know what? Hey, that's what mom wants. I'll go with that.
Right.
And it's funny because if you ask like cats that know me, like Victor Gould, people like that, Billy, they know at Berklee, if you call me Godwin Louis, I'll be like, no, man, it's Louis, man.
Wow.
But now it's the other way around, you know what I mean? Because my mother is like Louis. I was like, all right, mom, I actually tell people, Louis. And she's like, no, it's not Louis. We're Louis. Do you say Louis Vuitton? You say Louis Vuitton.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. But, I mean, if we're going to keep it real, that's not our name. That's some French colonizer. Anyway, we won't get into that, you know what I mean? But it's like, man, like, who the heck is Louis,
Yeah.
I know, he was the king of France, so were we his slave, whatever. But yeah, so that's where the whole Louis thing started. But back to Mr. Wilson, man. So I think I was 15 or 16 when I met him. And I remember the very first lesson, we played Giant Steps. He said, have you heard of this song? I want you to solo by ear. He said, okay, you have great ears, but we got to get your harmony game together. We got to get you listening to more jazz. We got to, so every week he would give me like a little, I guess, bring his CDs and have me check out 10 people at a time.
Wow.
And I have to write about it or email him, like, what did I think? And the very first batch I remember was Kenny Garrett, the tribute he did to Train. I don't remember the name of it.
Oh, yeah.
But he played, you know what I mean? It's like with Pat Metheny, where they do that Giant Steps in 7. Yep, that was one of them. And the second one was Antonio Hart with Roy Hargrove. I think it's the one where they do, I don't remember, but I think you'll remember. I think it was like maybe they recorded it in Japan. And then it was like Greg Godsby's band in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Also the album with Pat Metheny where they played that tune Wishful. And then James Carter, Branford Marsalis, I think it was the Requiem.
Oh, yeah.
Where the first, to Kenny Kirkland.
Mm-hmm.
That was my joint, man. Yeah. That was my song. And he wanted me to like know some of the younger guys, because I knew like Charlie Parker, John, all that stuff. I didn't know anything contemporary. I was playing, pretty much bebop and church.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like Charlie Parker and church. That was my playing dance. But he was shocked. Okay, you're 15. You don't know who Kenny Garrett. You got to know that. And then also, I think we also had, I'm trying to think what else. Like a couple other guys. Pretty much all the younger guys. Joe Lovano. Kind of everyone. And I remember I didn't like Kenny Garrett. Because picture my Brigand, bro. Remember Bebop Church?
Right.
Kenny, that's some heavy, you know what I mean? That's a little, you got me, you know what I mean? It was too deep for me. But Antonio Hart, I gravitated towards Vincent Herring.
Okay.
Because it's like coming from like that cannonball, like church, that kind of thing. Feel good, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's funny because like a year or two later of studying, I guess maybe that's what studying do to you. All of a sudden, some of the stuff that I liked before were corny, and Kenny Garrett was like God, like
right.
That dude, that's heavy. Triology with
yeah,
I think it's Blade, right? On drum.
Yeah, it's Blade.
Yeah, that was that was like that became my Bible, for like modern saxophone playing. But in addition to that, he had me like transcribing Herbie Hancock.
Okay.
Transcribing Finnish, Newborn, Jackie By, like, piano players too.
So he basically
that was his whole thing.
He had you in the shed,
Yeah, he really had me in the shed for 2 years, man. And then I think like by the end of my senior year, he said, okay, well, I've, done what I could, I think from here, continue learning, continue doing your thing. And I remember we also did like some theory lessons, where he would introduce, composition, counterpoint. Man, he helped me a lot because, going to Berklee, I was able to like, a lot of the information weren't new to me because of him,
Right, of course.
I did my homework and I remember him telling me, you'll see, like a lot of things he say, you'll see later on why it's important to know piano players, to know bass players, to check out drummers, to check out all the cats. Not just, people that look like me, which we have the tendency of gravitating towards, Like, I'm not listening to, this cat because he doesn't look like me, you know what I mean?
Right.
But no, this guy had me checking out, cats playing in Europe, whoever was still, and it was up to me to decide, okay, this is not good, this is good. So that's my musical background,
right?
Where I was like given the free will, to accept whoever I want to accept. So that's kind of something that's dear to me. And like whenever I share information with other people, I kind of keep an open mind like that.
Okay.
And I think that's the way it should be. We should present people like, here's reality.
Yep.
It's up to, here's good, here's bad. I feel like that was my musical training, like here. So it's up to you. But remember, these are the masters, these are the icons, and the rest is up to you and what you do with it. And it was fun. We met every Monday at University of Bridgeport, and for about 2 years. So that was like, like an important. So yeah, I really, owe it all to Mr. Wilson, man. He really helped me out. Fun fact, I think he was also Wayne Escoffery's teacher, or maybe Wayne Escoffery. I'm not sure. I think maybe Wayne Escoffery might have took some lessons with him, or maybe, something like that.
Okay.
Right?
I guess Wayne is from Connecticut also.
Yeah, Wayne is from Connecticut. I think the New Haven area.
Okay.
And because I remember hearing that, and I know whenever I see Wayne, we talk about, or at least we've talked about him before. Like, yeah, Wilson. He's like, oh, yeah, Mr. Wilson. So, yeah, that cat, helped me out a lot, man. And then I felt like after that, everything was sort of like adapting. Going to Berklee was like adapting to whatever is going on. And,
right.
And because of Mr. Wilson, I continued to study like that, So I remember when I was at Berklee, I would like take guys. Like, for example, like I remember studying Lee Konitz for like a whole year, where I learned his melody, where I learned that vibe. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I need to check out Wayne Shorter and this crew. Okay, I need to now go back to, Louis Armstrong again and check him out. I feel like going to school and Berklee, or in general, I think that's what college is supposed to be. I think college is supposed to be the time, if we're going to study this music, you know what I mean? Like, to really get into it, to check out some people, start composing, So I really like took advantage of that time. To like, okay, I'm going to check out Monk now. I'm going to check out John Coltrane. Now I'm going to go back, and check out, Lou Donaldson. I'm going to check out Ellington. I'm going to check out Thelonious Monk, and whoever I can, I try to like really soak it all up. At least check out the album, keep an open mind, because Mr. Wilson, his psychology degree, the psychology side to him kind of brainwashed me to keep an open eye.
Right.
You see what I mean? So I would be checking out everyone and everything, and whatever I like, I would kind of stick to it. And then eventually, after college, I think around the time I moved to New Orleans, I sort of went to like a musical identity crisis where it's like, who am I musically? You know what I mean? Where you start realizing, damn, everybody kind of sound the same.
Yep.
We've been given the same information in school, and there's only 3 gigs.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like it was time to like kind of find it. So I think the Monk Institute really helped, man, with that.
Mm-hmm.
We were fortunate to be down there with Terrence Blanchard. He was exactly what was needed at that time, because his whole thing was kind of similar to Mr. Herb Wilson. I got to it from Connecticut. It's like keep an open mind and remember, like always be in the present. That was his thing. Be in the present, push, be in the present, hone the notes you play, think about the bar line, just creative ways of thinking, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's my musical upbringing, man.
Wow.
I know I went all over the place, but.
No, man, that's great. That was, I loved every moment of that, man. That was.
Yeah.
I want to turn a corner here. Because earlier when we were talking about, I'm just gonna say Haiti because I don't want.
No, that's fine. Hey, that's how you say it.
Okay,
that's not. Yeah.
So what I have noticed between you and Jonathan Michel and some other Haitians that I know is Haitians tend to reach back to their country more so than anyone that I have ever come in contact to. And like you alluded to earlier, your parents own a church and several other. Programs to help the people of Haiti, and now you own a nonprofit, or you are a CEO of a nonprofit that reaches into the Haitian community to teach them a trade, which is music, to better their situation. Why is it that Haitians, you think, reach back to lift up their brothers and sisters?
I think it's the hand that Haitians have been dealt, man. It's like if Haitians don't take care of home, no one will, man. Like, and that's where, that's pretty much where I'm coming from the whole Experience IT organization. Because if you think about it, we've learned historically, the Haitians were, the first Black republic, the first to free themselves. And they've been punished by the West, by Europe, by this wonderful country of ours here, the USA, and everywhere else. And as a result, we got to keep it 100. Haiti is very African. Mm-hmm. The world still, being African is still, I guess, new,
Right.
It's still a new concept, if I can put it like that, being African. The world still don't understand what that means, or Black. Some people call it Black, others call it African, but of African descent is something that the rest of the world is still not really used to. You see what I mean? And Haiti is that place with a history of victory. You see what I mean? And and also with a deep history and poverty. Some of it is self-inflicted, but, a lot of it is, done because of the West. So literally, if the Haitians that have been fortunate to move to the diaspora, whether it's here, the U.S., Canada, France, I think those are like the major, Haitian populations outside of Haiti. If they don't reach back home, man, nothing will be done, And you have that same situation here, with a lot of like inner city neighborhoods. If the people don't really help themselves, and I hope that we can start looking at it like that. If you really don't start looking within and helping your community, no one will, I think so. That's one of the reasons why, people like my parents, Jonathan Michel, and other Haitian Americans' parents, they have to reach home. And secondly, the money that's sent here to Haiti is kind of like the income for a lot of Haitians, the main income. I think billions of dollars, I think it's about $9 to $10 billion is sent back home to Haiti. So that's pretty much what's running the country. It's the families working here to send money back, to their sisters, brothers, uncle, husband, wife. That's keeping a major part of the country running,
Mm-hmm.
Because, Haiti lacks in a lot of infrastructures, not only like road and structural, but educational infrastructure, social, economic infrastructure. You see what I mean? So it's like, it's really important and imperative that, like, people look back, and not really rely, on the West too much, because the way we look at it here, as Americans, we also look at it like, didn't we help this country last year? We kind of look at it as like trend.
Right.
Okay, now Haiti's trending with the earthquake. Let's help them out. And then if something else happened in Haiti, Haiti had about 7 natural disasters in the past 7 years after the earthquake.
Wow.
And when you're always asking for help for Haiti, people will feel some type of way. Like, wait a minute, didn't we, already help them out? Didn't we, what I mean? So that's why it's important. This is why I started to experience Haiti, because I remember last year they had a major hurricane, man, that pretty much wiped out the south of Haiti. And
wow.
The media was like, well, I mean, we helped them out for the earthquake. It's literally wiped out, man. People lost thousands of cattle and homes were washed away. You know what I mean? So then I was like, how can I help? And, I see, of course, you see all the foundations come out. Donate money to this foundation and that foundation. Mm-hmm. I came up with the idea of, okay, the real way people will help out if people actually visit Haiti. And I feel like, as a Haitian American, we have to start creating allies. I have a diverse array of friends. They know I'm of Haitian descent, but they don't know anything about Haiti. Mm. So I said, you know what? I'm going to appoint myself as some sort of ambassador, find people, artists, since I'm a musician. That's what I know. Let me try to help in the arts. Did you know that, because of Haiti, many people don't know this, but, Congo Square was started by the the free Haitians that moved to New Orleans after the Haitian Revolution. So I've been doing research since 2010.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Congo Square it's because of the Creole people that moved to New Orleans.
Right.
From Haiti, during the Haitian Revolution. Remember, Napoleon was still, in charge of Louisiana. And when the Haitian gained their independence in 1804, that's, Napoleon, that kind of broke the whole system. They ran out of money, and that's the reason why that Louisiana was sold to the U.S.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And during the Haitian Revolution, you had a lot of people like Louis Gatchok, we talk about, that's in the music of New Orleans. That's a person that came from, Haiti, then know that Saint-Domingue. Both islands, the Dominican Republic and Haiti, they moved there. Ferdinand Lamotte, we know as Jelly Roll Morton.
Okay.
That's also, of Haitian descent.
Wow.
And you had a whole array of people that moved there, and you see it in the culture there. And I was always amazed by that, but it was interesting to me how much, I think it's because of Haiti's social and political state that it was never acknowledged when I lived in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Wow. I remember always like, it's kind of acknowledged. I remember speaking to, with Dr. Michael White, and he encouraged me actually. He said, you know what, Godwin? Well, that's your job now to, do research and find that connection. Mm-hmm. We know it's there, but, to tell a, Black person in New Orleans, because remember that, we're very divided. Mm-hmm. That, that a lot of the ancestry and a lot of the culture comes from Haiti. Not everybody want to hear that. Right. Just like not, a lot of us don't want to associate ourselves with Africa. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I began this research, and, I've been looking into every aspect of it and realized that, man, Haiti is a deep place, musically, culturally, and it pretty much contributed so much culture and the arts, specifically all throughout the Caribbean. The Big Four, as we know it, would not be the Big Four without Haiti, because the original contredanse we know came from those freed slaves. You know what I'm saying? Remember, those people were free, roaming around. They went down to South America, helped Simon Bolivar free his people in South America. And these are facts. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as I was thinking of all of that stuff, I was like, man, what can I do to really make sure that people are aware, especially in the arts? And I said, this is what I'm going to do. Do an organization where I bring visibility to young artists in Haiti, and also for artists, people like yourself, to go there and experience it too. Right. So in other words, it's sort of like an exchange, because you have that exchange happening to the neighboring islands that Haiti have contributed a lot to musically. If you speak to the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, especially when you go to the Oriente regions of Cuba, Santiago de Cuba, it's like little Haiti, man. Yeah. So I realized, Cuba and Puerto Rico, all the neighboring islands get a lot of visibility, and Haiti don't. Why don't Haiti have that? Because Haiti don't have allies. They don't have, I guess, that kind of infrastructure that people can go. Imagine this. I bring you to Haiti. Now you will see it for yourself. And when you hear the stories, you're going to be like, nope, I've been there. It's just like New Orleans, for instance, living in New Orleans, moving back, I will hear somebody will say something about, oh yeah, I hear New Orleans. It's like, nope, it's not true. I live there. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear New Orleans is third world. People are just dying every day, explosions. Nope, that is not true. I live there. It's just the same thing. Nope, that's not true. I know what the media is trying to paint, but I've been to Haiti. Mm-hmm. So, the goal is to get people to go to Haiti and kind of bring that infrastructure to Haiti. Have people experience the place, check out the rich art that's going on down there. How can a place that gave birth to all the different negritude and Pan-African movements that we have going around the world be last? Right. You see what I mean? And I realized that it's Haitians that have to help themselves, like I was telling you before. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the motto that should, that people should consider all around the world. You look within, you save yourself, then you can reach out to others. You see what I mean?
Right.
So that's the whole, idea and vibe for Experience IT, to create that self-sustaining culture there, where the Haitians can help themselves, where they can record in Haiti. For instance, if you're a young Haitian artist and you record an album in Miami or in New York, you get more love by your fellow Haitian rather than if you record the album in Haiti. You see what I mean?
Wow.
And so, we have to, teach the people to appreciate what they have and bring it to light, bring that culture to light. So I plan on, taking you down there, man. Plan on taking all the homies I know, man, to go to Haiti with us and experience the place and also serve. It's a major part of what we're doing.
Look, I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. So what we do, we present workshops because it's a multidisciplinary arts program. We have music workshops. We're looking for actors. They can do a workshop on acting. Filmmakers, they can do a workshop on filmmakers, journalists, and you name it. Actually, we're even trying to extend it. This year, for instance, we have a very successful makeup artist. She's going to be down there. And I told her, you know what? You're going to be presenting some workshops in Haiti on makeup, And I remember it was proposed to me there was a soccer star that was interested. I said, we can set up a workshop, man, where you can meet up with some kids and, you help them out.
Right.
You see what I mean? So it's like that idea of an exchange. And, our goal is not to import the language of Charlie Parker to Haiti, but we can import the tools that are needed to have like the Charlie Parker of Haiti.
Of course.
Like where they can take their own, because you have that problem all over the world. Our wonderful country here, I've done a great job at like telling people like, listen, we're the ish. That's it. That's why Americans, we don't need to speak any other languages. Right. Because we've established we're proud of home. But, a lot of other places, man, like, Haiti, they're left last. Where it's like the shift of the forces are so heavy to be like an outsider, to be American and to embrace America first, that they forget about themselves. And that's one of the most important tools, is to remember home. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that way people will take you seriously. You take care of home. People are like, wow, I've been to Haiti. It was like this and that. And these people are proud. Let's do it,
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I wanted, first of all, that was deep. It was like, hey, there's so much information, so y'all got to check out this, in support, give all your money to this cause, to this charity, to this nonprofit, Experience IAT. And it's experienceIAT.org, right?
Yeah, AYITI. IAT. So experience, AYITI.org. And, we look for volunteers to go to Haiti with us. If you're, a music lover, lover of the art, or you'd like to, experience and visit Haiti, we set it up all for you, and, visit the website for more info. And I'm looking forward to what will come out of it too, and hopefully,
it's going to be huge, man.
Yeah, man.
So look, I got some people here on Facebook, and they have some questions for you. This one comes from a good friend of mine. His name is Darren. My question is, with the way the world is receiving music now, Spotify, iTunes, etc., do you feel this has increased the jazz audience? Always feel that people should know this music and its musicians are out here. I feel radio has done a poor job in exposing this music to the current generation.
Right. I know it's a controversial, I guess, to some topic, but I partly agree with that. I really think that Spotify culture has exposed, bring new exposure to the music, because firstly, you have people like, my younger siblings or my young cousins that are like, a result of that social media push that we have. So it's like, it becomes, their musical taste become like tribal in terms of like the media says, okay, here's who to like today. Designer is it. We're no longer, Lil Wayne is old school, and this is the artist du jour. You check that person out. That's it. I feel like when we were in high school, it was done a little bit more like that. Like in high school, it was like people listen to this or that. Mm-hmm. But now you have more options because, for instance, I can tell my little sister, hey, check out this playlist. Check out Esperanza Spalding. You know what I mean? Check out Jason Moran and what he's doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Check out Darian Douglas. Check out whoever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like it's easier to get them access to different musics because
exactly. It really does. And you have people all over the world, I think, more aware. Like when I travel now, people will be like, "What's your name?" "Oh, I see your album on Spotify." Like, wow, that's cool. So I think it's bring exposure, but in terms of course, CD selling and all that, that's definitely killed that.
Of course,
for sure.
Of course.
But so it's like exposure or that. We have to, pick one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. One more question. This question is from another Facebooker. Mm-hmm. He's a musician, so he says, as a single line instrument, how does your church music background influence your approach to both harmonic and rhythmic phrasing? This is for all the non-musicians. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think big time because, first of all, church is the number one lesson in ear training. You know what I mean? Like you go, they start singing the song and you find a key and then you pretty much, I think church is the number one to me today, like modern, what we call counterpoint, the idea of like connecting lines together. I feel like start with church because with church, we learn about cadence, we learn about progressions and, you see what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and we learn, okay, this is coming here. The modulation is occurring here. This is a 3-6-2-5, 2-5-1 progression. I learned it in church.
Right.
You see what I mean? Yeah. We learn, okay, oh, that's what it sounds like. Oh, yeah, I know. Da, da, da. Oh, got it. You know what I mean? So I think it definitely helped. And rhythmically, it's the same thing too. It's like it extends because we have, you hear it done. So it's like harmonic ear training, rhythmic ear training. You see what I mean? And later on when we go to school, we kind of put it all together. Like, oh, I know this sound. Oh, diminish. I heard that sound before. That's what it sounds like. So it's pretty much like the prerequisite to like formal training. And I think it's important because it makes you understand the context of things formally. You see what I mean? If you go into formally composing, having that church background, of call and response and all those different devices that we use, it sort of gives you like a first hand of like, oh, I know this. I know it's done. I've heard the natural context because church provide that natural context, that natural musical context. You see what I mean? That it's not learned. This is what the song is. That's what, Yeah. Total praise. That's what that song is. It has all those harmonic devices. And I know a lot of the composers behind a lot of the music, they're formally trained. But when we're coming up, in the church, we don't view it like that, There's no one, So
that's where we all learn to be in the moment is in church.
Exactly.
So so that came from Cedric. So thanks you.
Cedric, yeah. But, thank you. Shout out to Cedric.
Man, I want to get into because last time I saw you, we were talking. You were gonna go. I was coming from Africa, I think, and you were headed back to Africa for a vacation, and we spoke briefly about it. But I kind of want to get into that, like going to Africa as an African American or I'm assuming I don't know how you identify, or Haitian American. What did that mean to you and what did you learn from that experience?
Man, it put it all into perspective to me, man. Going to Africa made me realize that we need each other. Like we all need each other. And by that, I mean like those of us that ended up in the Americas, those of us that ended up in North America, those of us of African descent, that is, that ended up in the Caribbean, those of us that ended up in South America, I realized it put it all together for me, because I remember being in West Africa, and kind of realizing that, wow, they don't really get to mingle with people like me that's clearly of African descent. But, because of, what occurred, supremacy and power ended up, forcefully and illegally in the New World.
Right.
And because I feel like there's a lot of things that are lacking that because of, man, colonialism played a major number on us.
Of course.
It introduced serious inferiority complex in a lot of us. Where it's like, well, my parents were slaves, so we keep on having this thing in mind whenever things occur. You see what I mean? We're like, man, look, like we have like a long history of things that pretty much activate inferiority complex in a lot of us.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It keeps us in this cycle of being the victim.
Exactly. So when I was in so there and a lot of the people in the continent in Africa went to some that kind of thing, but it's a little different because think about it, when you grew up in Senegal, you grew up with, you know, African leadership in terms of like on the money, someone that looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know what I mean? That kind of mindset.
Right.
The person, the leader look like you. Your teachers look like you. You know, a teacher, a successful African doctor that look like you.
Right.
You know, successful people that look like you.
Yeah.
But because of, this this diverse community that we live in, a lot of times, we don't really get to see the representation like that. It becomes, the classism is set up a little differently, where a lot of us, depending on where we grow up, it can be like, yeah, people that are poor look like this and people that are rich look like that. Damn. And I think that like Africa sort of like because of that, I think it affects the way our behavior, how we behave. It affects big time family structure. And I think that's one of the things we can learn from the Africans, like family structure, like you must respect your elders. Mm-hmm. That's something I think we lack in our community, but it's literally because of colonialism. Yeah. We learned that like when we have respect, certain elders, they take advantage of us. Mm-hmm. So you always have to defend. You see what I mean? Yep. If someone keeps on stepping on you and you don't actually, get up, like react a certain way, then you're a pushover. Right. And then they can continue to manipulate you. And then as a result, it creates, more, weird dynamics in terms of like, all right, I don't need to respect you. You don't respect me, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that's important that we need is like family structure, knowing like this is your brother, like to love each other. Yeah. It's really divided, man. Like we're really divided here. If you're a person of African descent from New Orleans and the South Side Chicago, first of all, you don't even identify with each other. You kind of see it like, it's all about my hood and my family and God. That's it. That's why we identify. But it's not like all inclusive. And I felt like when I was in Africa, it made me kind of realize why it needs to be all inclusive. Right. Like the importance of like actually coming together under that umbrella of, of embracing our African descendants. You know what I mean? Yep. So that was like one of the number one factors. And then on the other side, I feel like social and economically, because we're westernized here in this continent, they need to learn that. Yeah. You see what I mean? Like they need to understand the notion of like, okay, you're being played. Right. You see what I mean? Remember I said that was our weakness, but that's what they need. Yeah. So their strength, you know what I mean? It's like they a lot of times I see that, and I'm like, man, you can make so much money. Like, why is the French and the English, why is Europe literally abusing everything you have? They taking it all away for free. Exactly. Yep. I remember I was in Côte d'Ivoire, and I went to like pretty much a black soap farm that was owned by like some company, like a Dutch company. And the people were literally working for like $1 a day, something really cheap. And it's like a big profit. 90, you know what I mean? Like right. A big profit. And I said, how come, all the people that we have here that have that kind of power, that we can go there and actually control the continent? Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I realized is that they scared all of us from going there. But when I get on the plane to go, to wherever it is in West Africa, which is where a lot of us are coming from, you know what I mean? It's all European people of European descent.
That blew my mind.
It's, they're the tourists. They're living it up.
Bruh.
Big houses. And I'm like, man, I can own a big house here too and have a damn farm.
I went on safari.
Right.
You know how many black people was there?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was like, man. Wow. So I was like, wow, my mind was blown. I realized, man, we really, really need each other. Because I don't know why we really think we're like different species, you know? When we're the same person. I remember going to a tailor. I'm like, man, like I need some stuff. And he bought me like their, you know, I don't know if it's fake or real, their Louis Vuitton print. And, you know, I said, oh, I don't need that. I'm talking about like I need your traditional stuff.
Right.
And he's like, no, you don't need that. You know, you people don't like. What do you mean you people? He's like, well, every time, you know, the few times I had, you know, a black person from the Americas, they usually want like something westernized. And so I'm shocked. You sure that's what you want? Because I know, you know, over there, you guys don't really like to satiate yourself with Africa, you know. So, and I was like, no, I was like, okay, so we need to kind of hang and really learn each other, you know, like, and understand that kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Learn the idea of sharing. I realized that a lot of us that ended up on this side of the world are not good with the concept of sharing. You know, I think it's coming from like that European supremacy thing that was been taught.
Right.
You know, it's like we don't really like to share.
Right. We gotta
but
take
there
care of
they do
take care
that.
of each other. We gotta take care of each other.
Yeah, we don't. Sharing is nah. You on your own, bro. You know, when you're 18, you get out of the house. You know that kind of structure. I don't think is best. You know, you're 18. That's the structure. You out of the house. That's it. You're on your own. And to me, that's why Haiti bridged that gap, because as you know, a Haitian American of African descent. I guess whatever that label is, I realized that Haiti's sort of the middle ground, that the bridge between the West and Africa. Because, you know, Haiti is very African in culture. I saw a lot of similarities. When I was in Benin, Togo, Ghana, I was like, wow, this feels like Haiti, you know?
Right.
It's a very similar thing. However, traditionally, because, you know, Haiti's, you know, still have that French thing. So that, you know, New World thing. So it's like, to me, it bridges that gap. And I realized that, like, wow, we really need to, you know, look at it as like what it is. The reality is that you and I might have cousins that ended up in Brazil and Colombia and Ecuador.
Yep.
And Ponce, Puerto Rico, and Santiago de Cuba, or Oakland, California.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, literally, man. Like, we don't know where, you know what I mean? So it's like the notion of division, like, nah, I'm not that. You know, I'm Western, and, you know, I don't. You know, I you know, they sold us. I learned that history, too, because I was, you know, bitter about that, because we did sell our own, but I think if we understand the history of it,
right,
the role that the Catholic Church plays, the role that tribalism play.
Right.
See, in the West, we have the idea and the notion of color.
Right.
In Africa, we don't deal with that. It's more tribal. You're Ive, I am, you know, Akan, and, you know, you're Nago. Everybody to the Westerner, they look the same. How come they're so divided? Why are they fighting each other? Because that's the notion, and it goes to biblical days when we were looking at it like that.
Right.
Or like you're the Philistine. That's why the Bible never mentioned anything about race. You know, black people were fighting against the red people, and you see what I mean?
Right, of course.
So we forget that, like, the notion of like we sold our own is the same notion that, like, you know, somebody can get shot unjustified and people don't care because this person is, quote, a different color.
Right.
You understand what I mean? So, like, when we say stuff like, oh, they sold us, but it's like, no, but remember, we were dealing with different tribe. If your mom from this tribe kills somebody from that tribe, they capture you. To you, they view you as an enemy. Exactly. Because we didn't have that Eurocentric idea of color. You see what I mean? It was more like, no, we're different. We speak different tongues. We're different people.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things that completely raped African culture. Like, if you look at Sudan, you know, the colonizer went into Sudan and took, you know, the Muslim part, and then the sub-Saharan part, you know, and put it together to live under one roof. And they've been fighting forever. And a couple of years ago, you know, we finally split it into South Sudan and Sudan.
Right.
You know, I mean, of course, the situation is more complex, but I'm saying that's what we did. You know, we went in there like, no, this is one country.
Right.
Because, you know, you all kind of look the same. You're all colored anyway, blah, blah. But now understanding the idea of tribal, you know what I mean? And when you go to a lot of this country, you're dealing with different tribes, and it's essentially not the same at all. But they've had to deal with each other forever.
Right.
And I think, you know, where that's coming from, you know, that whole idea of divide and conquer, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. The whole Africa thing is so deep. And I mean, going to Africa did a few things for me. It opened my eyes, and it also ignited a fire in me to understand the people from which I came.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm in the process of doing, like, I did a DNA test and found out my people came from Benin and Togo.
Hey, so, man, see, you're my brother. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about me too. When I did my ancestry test, I found out that my ancestry is Benin and Togo, Congo,
yep.
And also Mali,
okay.
And then also Spain, Iberian Peninsula, and I'm sure you too. You all, and I think a lot of people looked at it as like, you know, no matter how chocolate you are, you don't have European, and you know, you look at me, you don't see but I'm 11% from the Iberian, and it makes sense because Iberian Peninsula, that's modern day Portugal, you know, Spain, and I guess some part of, you know, France too, so, you know, southeastern France. Right. And it makes sense. Yeah. They occupied, you know, the island that my parents came from. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So it's sort of like, for some reason, some of us don't embrace the African side, you know?
Right.
And it's given that, sure, we have, you know, we're a little more multicultural than our brothers and sisters there. Not all, but you see what I mean? That connection. That's what I found out.
Yeah.
It's like somebody, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know the story, man, who was so there, who acted up in the field, and then they sent there behind a Jamaica, or because I would hear that from here, your punishment was to send you to the Caribbean because things was rough. So if you act up in, you know, the Carolinas somewhere, they send you behind a Jamaica. And a lot of Jamaicans, because of its proximity to Haiti, went there. And another interesting thing about that whole thing is I took the ancestry test, and it shows you like people you're connected with.
Yep.
And a lot of my people was like all Jamaica.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Well, I think they call it genetic community.
Yep.
And to me, it made a lot of sense because you had a lot of people going back and forth. So, you know what I mean? And if you know nationally, there's a lot of Jamaicans and Haitians that beef, you know, Dominican. They're like, nah, man, I'm like, we're all cousins. You don't even know, you know?
Exactly.
The Jamaicans say, yo, we don't trust the Haitian. They might do voodoo. You know what I mean? The Haitians say the same thing about the Jamaican. And it's like.
Right, of course.
When, you know what I mean, my genetic community, like people that it always suggests that are my cousin, it's always like some kind of, you know what I mean? It's sometimes it's a Dominican person with a last name like Rodriguez. I had actually a Dominican lady contact me because it looks like we're like first cousin.
Wow.
Or second cousin, you know?
Wow.
And I was telling her, well, I know my parents are from Haiti. You know, I know you don't want to hear that, you know, probably. But that's all I know, you know, like, and there's probably a connection there. Although I know that, you know, my grandparents were born in the DR.
Okay.
You know, it was one island, you know?
Right, of course.
On actually both sides. I thought it was only on one side. But my grandmother said that her grandfather came from there. Which explains the Iberian Peninsula side.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
And I had a Dominican friend on Facebook that posted her genetic makeup. And it was exactly the same as mine, but different number. You know, a little more, you know, Spanish.
Right, of course.
A little less Mali, Congo. But it was the same four, you know?
Wow.
Togo, Benin, Congo, and Mali, and it was like the same exact kind of, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting, because if you look at us, you know, we look like we should hate each other because of the supreme idea of colorism.
Right.
But yet, you know, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's deep, man. But y'all should go, if you haven't done it, everybody get your ancestry situation handled. There's a bunch of companies out there that do that. Now I want to switch gears. I got a few more questions. I know we've been on the phone for a minute.
Right.
So I play this game. It's called the word game. And so I'm going to say some words, and then I want you to tell me the first story that comes to your mind when I say that word.
Right.
All right. First word, spirituality.
Spirituality. When I think of spirituality, to me, that's speaking of faith. And that's having faith in the unknown, faith that things will happen. That's literally what it means to me. I remember thinking about it. I wish I had a deeper meaning. But when I think of being spiritual, and people say, I'm a spiritual person, to me, being spiritual means like having faith, like calling things in my life. You know what I mean? Like, personally, I'm a follower of Christ. Because to me, the story of Jesus reflects nature. And it seems like that's what the African naturally, that's what we understood that. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole other, thing. Right. But when I think of the idea of faith and calling things out, that to me, that's what spiritual mean. It's like you literally can do that, man. Like call, you know what? I have $5 in my account, by this time tomorrow, I'm going to have this amount, that's so that to me, spirituality, faith goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Mastery.
Mastery. To me, mastery, that's, I guess, conquering a weakness.
Yeah, I like that.
Like you conquering a weakness. Yeah. That's what mastery is to me.
Legacy.
Legacy to me goes hand in hand with success. And true success, based on my understanding and what some of my relatives and some of my ancestors have defined legacy and success as, is the ability, this is success and legacy. Success is the ability to be yourself, 100% exercise your God-given free will. You live your life free. I mean, no intervention from social media, supreme, whatever. You live your life believing in whatever you want, fully living your life and your God-given free will and influencing others because of that. Example, musically, John Coltrane played his God-given free will musically, explored what to him felt like he should explore. And in return, people appreciated that. And he influenced others, started a movement, all sorts of movement. That is an example of musical success. And complete success is that idea of being able to completely be yourself.
Wow.
And then changing others like that. That's success. I know we look at it like, okay, you have $1 million in the bank, but you came from the bottom. Now we're here. But that stuff will go because it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, what did you do? How did you sell it? So what's the outcome? How long will it last? Mm-hmm. But John Coltrane and Louis Armstrong are forever.
Damn.
That's success and legacy. That's that to me.
Wow. Damn, bro. That was a great answer.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to wrap things up here, man. I ask everybody that comes on the show these 3 questions. And I ask everybody this one question. And it's, what are the 3 things that you're thankful for?
Man, I am absolutely thankful for Jesus, bro. I'm not even gonna lie, and to keep it real. And that's really because to me, he, like the idea and the story of Jesus is something that really helped all of us understand. If we truly like understood that, I feel like I've been free. You know, I feel like I'm able to exercise my free will. And at the same time, I can do good to others naturally, not because like I'm going to hell or, you know, whatever like that. And I think it's the notion of like loving others. And it really teaches us like how to fully live, man. Like, you know, peace, the idea of peace and love. You know what I mean? Because I think we look at it like peace. So the idea of peace is like, if I lose a dear one, how do I find peace in that? And I feel like as a savior, I believe in that. I feel like, you know, it shows us how to find peace, and that's always needed. Okay. You see what I mean? So I'm thankful for that. Mm-hmm. How that changed my life. I'm thankful for my father, man, because as a pastor, I feel like he could have gone many different ways in terms of raising us. We could have, you know, we could have been raised with the notion like, you know, you're better than other people because they don't believe. I feel like my father has always been supportive, and he has given the best advice. And those are always like, you know, the Holy Spirit. Like, you know, I remember one time, man, this is funny. This is good. I was dating someone, right? Okay. And I was like, man, for some reason, this is not really working. I don't know, man. Something is off. So I asked my dad, like, man, this is what's going on. And, you know, what would you do? Would you just break up, or would you just, and, you know, normally human nature, they'll give you an answer. Oh, yeah, you should do this. He said, son, as a pastor, if I told you what to do, it defeats the whole purpose of having faith, because the whole idea is that the Holy Spirit lives inside of you and you're trusted, meaning like you make a decision. You see, I mean, your instinct, that instinctive moment, and you don't regret it. And he said that's literally what it means. Like, to make a decision is to be accountable. You make a decision, you outweigh your good and bad. Okay, if you let her go, can you live with that? Right. You know, you're going to say shoulda, coulda, woulda, then you got to think about the other side. But the true having faith is where you pick one and you put, you know what I mean? And you have the basic understanding of picking one and sticking by it. And I remember, I will never forget that. I was like, damn, that's actually kind of dope. It takes the idea of like having regrets away. Because a lot of us have regret, and you know what regrets do? Creates all sorts of mental things. Like, man, I should have done that. Blah, blah. But the whole notion of like picking one side and say, I did the right thing. It's all good. Let's go. Forward motion. It's pretty much what you hear people talk about forward. That's what forward motion is. Like, you pick a road. I'm going there. Okay, the road is done. So I got to climb a couple of rocks. All right, I'm good. Let's go. I need to learn how to climb rocks then. You know what I mean? Right. And let's go. Right. So I'm really grateful for that, man. The third thing I'm thankful for, believe it or not, man, is America, bro. Is the country of my birth. The reason why is because, you know, I've been fortunate to travel all over the world. But you have to admit, man, like, we can do what we're doing because of this country. I know it was, you know, the founding was a little funny. Right. And the history's a little funny, but it's all here, man. And I think that's something you and I can talk about later, man. It's really up to us. Yeah. For it to be what it should be. The reason why it's what it should be, it has to literally be with us. If America is not doing what you think it should be doing for you and to you, we have to reconsider. And you know, that's the only place we can do that, where you have the option to reconsider, where we can, you know, like there's a movement of like, you know, a lot of people, you know, and the black community to like, you know, relocate their funds. Right. And do, you know, I mean, you can't, that idea, you can't even brew it anywhere else. Right. Exactly. You know, like there's a lot of things you can do where you can go on TV, be like, yo, I don't like the president. I don't like him. And yo, let's get him out. Yo, right. You know what I mean? And I think and the reason why we have the careers we do is because we're from this land. So we got to be grateful for that, and we got to change it, man. That's why I tell people right now. I feel like personally, I'm understanding to me what it really means to be an American is to really like not be afraid to allow, yourself to be free and allow people to deal with coexistence. Because I think if we say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you should be exploring your pursuit of happiness. However, I feel like we never make people question. We haven't really made people like have to deal with coexistence. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like when I decide to wear some thing, quote, that's out of the norm, I decide to play some music that makes you feel some type of way. That's my pursuit of happiness. And we say that it should exist. That's what we're saying the foundation of the country is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I'm definitely grateful for those three things, man.
Right.
I would say, for sure.
I loved all three of those, man. That was great. So
yeah.
That's it, man. But before we go, I do want to give you an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug, your records, obviously the nonprofit, or anything else to tell people where they can find and connect with you.
Right. Yeah, again, visit experienceIT.org to see what we're up to, and that's EXPERIENCEAYITI.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we have a website. You can check out my website, Godwin Louis. I have a lot of cool projects that I'm working on in 2018, so I finally have my debut album out. Then Darian, I know I need to send you 3 tracks. I got you, bro.
Okay.
I realized I fell asleep when I was like sending it.
Oh, right.
So I'll send that to you. I'm actually, again, we're, getting ready to go out to Haiti for our 2nd annual Experience IT trip, which will be December 26th till the 31st. Oh, if anybody have reeds, things like that, and like reeds, guitar strings, drumsticks, we actually have a crew, bro, of 200 drummers.
Wow.
In one town that we've gathered, and that's one town. So I'm trying to get some drumsticks for those guys to bring. My goal was to, bring instruments. Last year we made them write their names, but because of funding, I can't ship some of the stuff I received. So specifically right now, I'm looking for some reeds for the woodwind guys and some drumsticks, guitar strings, and shout out to everyone that have donated, that really helps, it really goes a long way. Yeah. So
that's what's up, yo. So listen, man, Godwin Louis, ExperienceIET.org. Y'all check it out. Yo, man, thanks for coming on the Working Artist Project.
Thank you, bro, for having me, man. Be blessed, man.
You too, brother.
All right, peace.
I can't thank you guys enough for listening to this podcast and going on this journey with me week after week. But before you go, I would like to ask you to do a few more things. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. The Working Artist Project is brought to you by Second Line Arts Collective. Find out more at secondlinearts.org.